Hey guys, Bladen here. I present to you my cutting-edge movement tutorial for Ghostrunner as of 2021. This will be a two-part tutorial divided into basic and advanced sections. The basic section will serve as a guide for beginner runners who just want a tutorial that's easy to absorb so they can start learning the full speedrun. The advanced section, on the other hand, will be a tool for dedicated runners who want to bring their time to the next level, featuring harder and more nuanced speed tech. That will be linked in the description. And one more thing before we get into it, this video will be assuming that you're already familiar with the fundamental movement mechanics of Ghostrunner, such as dashing, sliding, wall running, etc., and those won't be explained. So now, let's get into it. Before we discuss movement though, we need to get something out of the way. Binds. I highly recommend making sure you're comfortable with your binds before putting a lot of time into the game, because changing them after playing for several hundred hours will be much harder. I'll be going over some common recommendations, but at the end of the day, it's all preference, so just do what feels best for you. Starting off with the most important bind is dash. I highly recommend binding dash to right click or any button that you can always press comfortably and quickly. Doing so will allow you to air dash so quickly that you barely lose any speed. You'll know you're doing it correctly if your FOV doesn't change at all during the dash. While it is technically possible to achieve this with your pinky on shift, it's generally much harder and requires you to be more conscientious of the input, so dash and right click is the way to go in my opinion. The next most important bind is crouch. This is an action that will commonly be used simultaneously with dashing, so make sure you can comfortably press it at the same time. I have mine bound to C, but I've seen some people bind it to a thumb mouse button or control. The rest of the binds are really up to preference, so you could use the default binds or make up your own. If you want something to go off of though, here are my binds. Now that our controls are set up, let's finally get into some movement. The default walking speed in Ghostrunner is 10 meters per second, which is very slow. But when sliding, you are initially given a speed of about 17 meters per second. This speed quickly depletes though as we are experiencing friction from the ground. However, by jumping, we experience significantly less friction and can maintain most of that speed through the air. This is known as a slide hop. By stringing multiple slide hops together, we can move at a steady pace through levels. When stringing slide hops though, I recommend repressing crouch every time you do a slide hop to avoid mistiming the jump. Slide hopping is actually one of the slowest forms of movement in the game though, so it's usually reserved for spacing or cyber void segments, which are sections of the game where we don't have access to our dash. As noted before, sliding will initially give you a speed of 17 meters per second. However, if you slide at a ledge, you can gain a speed of up to almost 30 meters per second. This is a ledge boost. This tech on its own isn't extremely useful though, since it causes you to fall much faster. But when combined with Coyote time, there's a huge difference. If you aren't familiar with Coyote time, it's an intended feature in most platforming games that gives players more lenient timing when jumping at a ledge. In Ghostrunner, this time is precisely 0.3 seconds. Due to Coyote time, we can perform a ledge boost then jump immediately after. This is a ledge jump, which is often used synonymously with a ledge boost, so call it whatever you want. This allows us to clear larger gaps that we wouldn't normally be able to. So basically, a ledge jump just combines sliding and jumping while at a ledge. You'll find that most speed tech in Ghostrunner is just a combination of smaller mechanics, which may help you to understand them better. Sometimes runners adopt the misconception that Coyote time is a physical space after the ledge, but there's a reason it's called Coyote time. It doesn't matter if you're far away from the ledge or even if you teleport to another dimension. As long as you jump within those 0.3 seconds, it will work. So knowing that there's a window of time in which we can perform the jump, this actually lets us manipulate the trajectory of the ledge jump based on how soon or late we jump. In some cases, it's better to jump as late as possible to achieve the maximum distance, and in others, it's better to jump very early either to reach a greater height or to avoid another nearby platform in front of the ledge. This speed tech is often used in conjunction with slide hopping during cyber void segments. The timing for ledge boosts can be tricky because getting the speed boost only happens at a precise spot on the ledge, and a lot of the ledge's models aren't accurately indicative of the collision box. This goes especially for ledges in the cyber void, so getting the timing down for this tech could take some time depending on the player. Now before getting to speed tech that makes use of dashing, you should first understand the difference between ground and air dashes, since they function differently. Ground dashes are indicated by the white ticks beside your crosshair. Using the ground dash will warp your character forward quickly, then immediately stop. They can also be done on walls. These dashes are automatically restored after a short amount of time after dashing. You can have 1 to 4 dashes depending on what upgrade modules you're using. Air dashes on the other hand are a bit different. You only have access to a single air dash at all times, and it can only be restored by landing on the ground or wall running for a long enough time. Air dashing will launch you forward much like ground dashes, but you will keep your momentum since you're airborne. Air dashes can also be held to activate sensory boost, but we want to minimize that slowdown as much as possible, which is why we bind dash to right click. This next speed tech makes heavy abuse of the fact that air dashes are restored by wall running. By wall running, jumping off, then air dashing up and back toward the wall, we can gain the net height. This is known as wall climbing. The timing can be tricky at first, but once you find the rhythm of inputs, you should have no problem replicating it successfully every time. It's a very versatile tool to have because its applications are endless. Not only does it make many appearances in the speedrun route, but it can save you from falling to your death when something goes wrong. Now moving on to our first ground dash tech, the wave dash, or the dash slide as some like to call it. By dashing and performing a slide before the dash is finished, we can preserve a good portion of the speed from the dash. This tech is perfect for quickly building up speed and moving through crawl spaces, but other than that, it's not very useful. It really serves as the main component to its older brother, the dash slide jump. The dash slide jump, or DSJ for short, is self-explanatory. You dash, slide, and jump. Similar to slide hopping, we are sliding to preserve the speed from the dash, then jumping to keep our momentum through the air. The timing for this requires you to dash slightly before sliding, then hold crouch for the first few frames of the jump in order to maintain as much speed as possible. The DSJ allows us to gain as much speed as a ledge boost. The only difference is that DSJs can be done on any flat or downward slanted terrain. Due to its versatility, DSJs are the most common speed tech used to maneuver through levels. DSJs are also commonly chained together using short air dashes in order to regain some of your speed in the air. While most commonly done with a single dash, DSJs can also be performed using 2 dashes in quick succession. This actually adds an additional 10 meters per second on top of what you would normally get from a DSJ. Although due to how much distance this tech covers, it's best suited for very long rooms, hallways, or platforms where there's a lot of ground. Otherwise you won't be able to jump after the second dash. Now while the DSJ may be the older brother, it's only the middle child of the family. Introducing the Super Dash Slide Jump, or SDSJ, or just Super for short. This speed tech is the combination of both a ledge boost and a DSJ. By performing a DSJ at a ledge, you can reach speeds of over 40 meters per second. That said, this is one of the hardest speed techs to execute consistently. It requires very specific positioning, timing, and usually requires a running head start. Adding the fact that every ledge is different and doesn't always have the best model to collision accuracy makes this speed tech extra difficult. So often this is the trick that takes runners the longest time to get down. My best advice for this tech is to look down and make sure you dash and slide at almost the same time, but with the dash slightly preceding the slide. Other than that, this tech just requires experience in both timing and knowing all the different ledge collisions. The next speed tech will be making use of the gap jammer, or grapple as most people call it. By striking your sword immediately after hitting the grapple button, the grapple animation will get interrupted and your player will get launched to the grapple point slightly quicker, about a quarter of a second faster. This is called an instant grapple. Over the course of a full run though, this adds up to a lot of time save, especially in levels like the climb, which has a grapple every 2 seconds. For our last speed tech, we have the Updog. What's Updog? Not much. What's up with you? By walking up against the wall, jumping, then air dashing as you land on the ground, you receive much more height than you usually would from an air dash. Currently this tech is only used anytime we start the level in an elevator as it lacks any other uses. If done at the right time, it launches you just high enough to mantle just above the invisible wall in the elevator and go through the door early. I play at max FOV, so I know when to jump by looking at the lights in the corner of the elevator, specifically the third set of them below the door. If you're having trouble hitting this trick consistently, make sure you aren't holding any directional inputs while dashing, and try holding your dash button a bit longer to ensure you get the timing correct. This tech saves about 2 seconds each time, so with a total of 9 elevator level starts, that is 18 seconds in a full run. And that concludes the basic part of this movement tutorial. With this, you honestly should be able to complete the full game speedrun fairly quickly. Over 90% of every top run exclusively uses this tech, so it should take you very far when first starting to speedrun this game. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away in the comments, though another great option is to join the Ghostrunner Discord. In the Discord we have all sorts of resources for learning and practicing speedrunning this game, so make sure to check it out in the description. Linked with that will also be a doc for new runners that contains an FAQ and contains a bunch of terminology. But that is going to be it for this video. I wish you the best of luck on your speedrunning journey. Thank you all for watching, and peace out.